Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's dive into this, because today we are unpacking something that hits really close to home for so many of us. If you're part of the sandwich generation, you're juggling your career, raising your kids, and trying to care for aging parents, you absolutely know the hidden emotional toll it takes. We're going to take a hard look at the safety nets we build for our parents. We'll examine those very real caregiver stressors, look at some genuinely surprising, honestly kind of shocking statistics about traditional medical alert devices, and explore a totally different approach detailed in our sources. It's just a fascinating look at how psychology, pride, and technology all crash together when we're just trying to keep the people we love safe.
It's a question that strikes right at the heart of caregiver anxiety, right? What happens when the safety net you bought actually fails? The sources we're reviewing today deeply validate the emotional reality of having a parent who lives alone, especially when they live miles and miles away. There is this constant, thrumming worry just playing in the background of your busy life. There's the guilt when you just can't find the time to call them on a random Tuesday because, well, you're swamped at work. And above all, there's that lingering fear of an unexpected emergency, a fall, a sudden illness happening in an empty house. So to fix this, we usually do the responsible thing, right? We buy them a medical alert system. We set it up, explain how it works, and we breathe a huge sigh of relief. But the data we're about to look at asks a terrifying question. What if that safety net has a massive, fundamental flaw?
And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict. You want them safe, they want their fierce independence. If you've ever tried to help an aging parent, you have likely hit the absolute brick wall of, I don't really need it, I'm fine. It's the classic battle of wills. Parents who have spent their entire lives being the caretakers are suddenly thrust into the role of the care receiver, and they often just reject it outright. They refuse to wear the medical alert bracelets or the pendants. They'll just leave them sitting on the bedside table, or they hide them under their clothes. From the caregiver's perspective, especially when you're living hundreds of miles away, this refusal is literally maddening. But as we'll see, the problem goes way beyond simply refusing to put the device on.
Which brings us to a massive narrative bomb dropped by a 2008 study published in the British Medical Journal. They followed seniors aged 95 and older. Now, you would logically think that if an elderly person had an alarm and suffered a fall, they would use it, right? Well, the data says otherwise. The study found that in 95% of falls that occurred when the individual was completely alone, the person actually had some form of a call alarm system. But here's the shocking statistic. In 80% of those falls, the person who fell did not use their call alarm system to summon help. Just let that sink in for a second. 8 out of 10 times, the senior was wearing or had access to the button, experienced a fall, and consciously chose not to press it. No way, right?
To understand that staggering 80% failure rate, we really have to look at the psychology captured in the study's interviews. One senior stated perfectly, "I wanted to be able to get up myself. It makes me annoyed if I have to have help." When we look at this, we really have to validate their perspective. It's not just stubbornness. It is a profound, deeply human desire to retain dignity and control over their own lives. When a senior falls, their first instinct isn't to trigger a blaring alarm that summons an ambulance and potentially changes their living situation forever. Their first instinct is to try and fix it themselves. These devices often fail when they are needed most because they fundamentally clash with human nature.
Distilling the research, the sources cite 4 main reasons why the traditional wearable alarm model is so ineffective. First, denial. They simply don't believe they are vulnerable enough to need it. Second, stigma. Wearing a bulky pendant is a visible broadcast of frailty, which many seniors absolutely reject. Third, sheer logistics. They take it off for a shower or to go to bed, leave it on the nightstand, and then can't reach it when they fall on the way to the bathroom. And fourth, as we just discussed, conscious refusal to activate it out of a very real fear of being taken to the hospital or forced into a care home. The tragic result of all these factors is what researchers call long lies. In the study, out of 141 falls, 38 resulted in the senior lying on the floor for over an hour. And in 97% of those long lies, they had an alarm right there and just didn't use it.
So, the crucial point is this. We're using a system that requires a proud, potentially injured, and disoriented person to actively ask for help. The source materials propose shifting this paradigm entirely, pivoting from a reactive, wearable model to a proactive, automated daily check-in service. The logic here is super straightforward. Instead of waiting for the senior to push a button to say, "I need help," the system reaches out to them every single day to verify, "I am okay." If the traditional model is failing because of non-compliance and pride, the alternative is a system that just completely removes the need for the senior to initiate the emergency response in the first place. The service highlighted in the sources, called Care Calling Now,
operates on the principle of a frictionless safety net. It doesn't require any specialized installation, there's no expensive equipment to buy, no apps to download, and crucially, absolutely nothing for the senior to wear. It simply utilizes the technology they already have and are completely comfortable with, their standard mobile phone or normal landline. At a scheduled time every single day, the automated system calls the senior. All they have to do is pick up the phone, and the call is over in 15 to 30 seconds. It's just a completely normal part of their daily routine that subtly verifies their wellness without ever making them feel like a patient.
Let's move to and see how this builds into an actual safety net. The real value of this system isn't the phone call itself, it's the protocol that kicks in when they don't pick up. If the scheduled call goes unanswered, a very specific emergency response begins. First, the system doesn't panic, it waits 5 minutes and tries again, then waits another 5 minutes and tries a third time. This accounts for moments when they might just be in the bathroom or outside getting the mail. If there's still no answer, the system automatically dials up to 2 alternate numbers on file, ideally a nearby neighbor or a building manager who can physically knock on the door. Finally, if the alternates don't answer, the system immediately sends a text message or calls the primary family caregiver. The responsibility shifts to the designated contacts to ensure the loved one is actually safe.
From an economic standpoint, the sources outline a tiered pricing structure for this peace of mind. The baseline Gold plan is $30 a month, which covers the automated daily call and 2 alternate emergency contacts. There's an annual plan at $350 a year, which the company pairs with a travel reward incentive. And for those who prefer a more human touch over automation, there's a Platinum plan at $55 a month, where a live team member manually makes the daily check-in call. Looking objectively at the base plan, it essentially costs about $1 a day to establish this proactive daily safety net for an aging parent.
The literature positions this not just as a technological solution, but as a deeply effective psychological compromise, what they actually term the win-win scenario. For the senior, their fierce independence is completely respected. They get to stay in their own home, managing their own life, without the daily indignity or stigma of strapping on a fall alert pendant. And for the caregiver, who might be hundreds of miles away dealing with their own kids and career, it provides verified peace of mind. You aren't just hoping they are okay. You are receiving systemic confirmation of it every single day.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it frames the ultimate relief for a busy caregiver. It creates a scenario where no news is good news becomes literal. In the everyday chaos of the sandwich generation, your phone is constantly buzzing with demands, emails, and notifications. With this system in place, if you do not receive a text alert today, you know with absolute certainty that your parent picked up their phone, interacted with the system, and is alive and safe. It completely removes the guilt of not being able to personally call them every single day because you know the system is doing the heavy lifting of verifying their baseline wellness. The silence of your phone is exactly the reassurance you need. Which brings us to our final thought. The data from the BMJ study makes it glaringly obvious that simply handing an elderly parent a panic button and expecting them to use it really ignores the complex reality of human dignity. When 80% of seniors who fall alone don't use the alarm they are literally wearing, the technology itself isn't failing. Our understanding of the user is failing. Are we relying on an outdated, reactive model to solve a deeply human problem of pride and independence? By shifting to a proactive, frictionless daily check-in, we might just find a way to protect our loved ones that actually respects the very independence they are fighting so hard to keep. Thank you for joining me for this explainer.